Long ago, on a quiet, peaceful day, in a place known as Gakko Tengoku in the country of Japan, a young girl walked through a train yard along the railroad tracks. A kind girl, a lonely girl, a sad girl. A girl who wanted ever so much to be wanted, to be loved. A long time she had tried to get them to listen, to get them to understand. She wanted only for them to see her, to hear her, to listen. But they never did. She did not mean to make them upset. She did not mean to make them angry or sad. She wanted them to enjoy life. She wanted them to be happy. The girl could now see just how selfish she had been. Had she truly cared for them, she would not have attempted to force her love where it was not wanted. Oh, how sorry she was that for as much as she loved them, she was making them sad. She was making their lives difficult. How selfish she was. It would be so hard to leave them. She loved them truly with all of her heart. But they did not need her, nor did they want her, and they would be better off without her. The girl walked through a place where she did not belong, in a world where she was alone. The girl had so much love to give if only they had wanted it. She had once hoped and once dreamed that she would be loved, but she never was and would never be. The peaceful quiet of the day was broken by the rumbling sound of thunder. The earth shook and a loud shriek erupted again and again. Oh, how she wished they had listened, how she wished they had known her. With tears in her eyes and sorrow in her heart, Kayako let go, and let herself fall into the only embrace she would ever know.
As Reiko sat in the grass outside of her school building, she took delight in watching a tiny spider crawl across her leg. She had always been fascinated by such creatures. It never failed to amuse her how such an efficient killing machine, such a fine-tuned murderer, could be so harmless to her simply due to its unfortunate size. How unfair for the creature, she thought. How sad. Truly a monstrosity of nature, the spider came with a bulk of weaponry for the sole purpose of killing. From its venomous, piercing fangs to its ability to spin a literal web of death for the purpose of capturing and torturing its prey, none of which it could use to harm this fragile girl who was born with no such killing devices. Could a spider harm Reiko? Yes, of course. Some could, if its venom was powerful enough. Reiko knew, however, that this tiny assassin could not. She reached down and allowed the spider to walk onto her hand. Looking it over, she tried to imagine what its prey had experienced when they encountered the deadly fiend. Did insects experience fear? Did spiders? Was this spider afraid now? Afraid of her? How many have you murdered in your short life? She thought. Reiko would have liked to imagine what the spider had been thinking at that moment. Did spiders think? She did not know. Could spiders feel sadness, regret, pain? She imagined it must be capable of feeling some form of pain. Lifting the spider to her lips, she whispered to it, "Are you afraid?" She opened her mouth and placed the spider inside. She closed her lips and felt the little beast curiously examining its new surroundings. Would she show it mercy? Would she open her mouth and release the critter from its strange new prison? She thought about if the situation had been reversed. If the spider had been her size and had caught her in its web of death? Would the murdering monster show her mercy and forgiveness? Would the spider take to heart her terrified pleas and hold off its execution? Reiko knew it would not. This heartless killing machine would have no interest in her fear or her grief, or in the unbelievable pain which it would certainly inflict upon her. From this thing, she would be granted no reprieve, no remorse. The monster would think only of itself as it pierced her flesh with its fangs and injected its poison into her body. What must it feel like, she thought, to be digested from within? To be liquefied into a sickening mass and then sucked up like miso soup. As she felt the little creature trying to get into the back of her mouth and down into her throat, she decided that now would be the time of execution. This is less than you deserve, she thought, and crushed its body between her teeth. As she chewed it twice more and then swallowed it down, she thought again how unfair it all seemed. Had the spider deserved to die? Yes, of course it did. How many others had it murdered? But how pathetic it was that such a monster, so perfectly equipped to deliver death, should itself be killed off by a simple, fragile schoolgirl. It was lunchtime, and Mutsumi was sitting beneath the trees in the schoolyard, reading one of her father's old books. Her father, having recently passed away from a terrible illness, was now always in her mind. She found that reading the books that had once belonged to him helped her to feel close to him. He had held these, read these. They smelled of his study. They had been part of his life, and so part of him was here with her now. At least she liked to think so. Mutsumi often felt alone. Except for her mother and her brother, Koji, she had very few people in her life. With loneliness on her mind, she looked around the yard to see who else was outside today. Just her normal group of girls talking about your normal, everyday things. Mutsumi was too shy to attempt to join them in whatever they were discussing. She noticed Reiko and Hoshi at the other side of the yard, and could only imagine what bizarre conversations were taking place at that table. She did not know the two girls well, but they shared some classes with her. She had heard enough about them to assume that they were not the kind of people that she would like to get to know. For now, she was fine with her book. This one was about a bear named Red, who was raised by a family of circus folk. Mutsumi tried to imagine her father's thoughts about this story. He had always been a good-natured man, and she could almost hear the echo of his laughter. Elsewhere in the yard, Reiko and Hoshi had been discussing how many bodies were unaccounted for in the nearby Kanashimi forest. The forest was a popular destination for young people who had decided that they had seen and heard enough of this world. To date, there had been 39 confirmed suicides in that area, and over 60 suspected suicides. Reiko had brought up the idea of taking a hike back there one day to try and find some of the unclaimed remains. Hoshi had feared that this suggestion would arise. Ever since Reiko had initiated the subject, she knew by now that Reiko had an abnormal habit of being drawn toward all things terrible and disturbing.
I guess it's illegal to go out there, though. And it's quite a large area. I doubt there's much to find there anyhow, right?
Reiko picked up a small jar that Hoshi thought looked as though it had once contained baby food. What was inside now resembled baby food, but with a coarser substance mixed in.
Hey, I'll share this with you if you like. I made it fresh just last night. Please, let me know what you think of it.
What is it?
Just eat it.
Hoshi knew better than to eat anything that was offered to her by Reiko. From what she had witnessed Reiko eat, she would swear there was something wrong with the girl.
Oh, no thank you. There doesn't seem to be much left, and I wouldn't want to eat the last of it on you.
Hoshi had made the mistake of once eating some food that Reiko had offered her. For the most part, the food had tasted as it should, but there was a strange undertaste that Hoshi knew did not belong. Forever, she would wonder what it had been. Despite her strangeness, Hoshi still liked this girl. She could be funny at times and always had some interesting story to tell. She knew a lot about animals and insects especially. And Hoshi, not being the most normal person herself, certainly felt more than normal while with Reiko. But Hoshi knew that it was more than simply being a bit off. She knew that sadly, her friend was not a well person. Often Reiko would invite Hoshi to come to her house, an ordeal which Hoshi dreaded. There was Reiko's grandfather, for one thing, a creepy old man to whom Hoshi had no interest in becoming acquainted with, and would simply grant a quick hello. Then there were Reiko's pets, if you could call them pets, dogs and cats and forest creatures that Reiko had collected from the streets and woods. They were kept in cages, and it was evident that they were not given proper care and zero love. Hoshi had the strong feeling that Reiko kept the animals more out of curiosity than companionship. She had told Reiko that it was wrong to keep the animals in cages, and that she would allow them to be outside. But Reiko insisted that they would escape and never return. Hoshi imagined they would. Reiko also had a large collection of bugs, which she kept in her bedroom. Spiders, flies, cockroaches, centipedes, moths, and butterflies, even insects that Hoshi had never seen or heard of before. Reiko had them stored in drawers, jars, bags, and boxes. She even had a large variety of dead ones. Hoshi assumed she simply kept them after death until they disintegrated to nothing. Staying the night in that room is something Hoshi promised herself she would never do.
Back the hell off!
Give that back to me. You have no right to take it.
I'll look at it if I want to.
Her chain of thought was broken by the shouts of some girls on the other side of the yard. It looked like June and Amiko were once again harassing someone. Oh, June and Amiko. Hoshi did not care at all for those two bullish oafs. June's father ran the local karate school and thought that made her the next Atsuko Wakai. But even Hoshi, who knew nothing of martial arts, could see that June had absolutely no grace nor finesse.
What?
Mutsumi tried to get to her book, which was now in the hands of Amiko, but was firmly held back by June. While Mutsumi had been reading her book, the two girls had come along, and Amiko had tore it from her hands.
Please give that back to me.
And Sam saw within his friend something he had missed before. There was a loyalty there. Red had known that it was Sam who had saved his life, and this was apparent in his eyes.
Please give it back. It belongs to me. I was reading it.
If it belongs to you, then why does it say property of Hibiki Akiyama?
It belonged to my father.
Oh yes, I see. Well, he must have been reading it when he died. It smells bad, you know, like the stench when somebody dies.
Why would you want to bring dirty old books to school that smell like your dead father, Mutsumi?
Give it to me.
Mutsumi managed to push past the large female behemoth, only to be grabbed forcefully by her collar and flung right back against the tree. After nearly annihilating the much smaller girl with a single throw, June walked over to Amiko and grabbed the book from her. She then walked back over to Mutsumi, who was now on the ground beneath the tree. With a cold, dark expression on her face, June began tearing several pages from their binding and tossing them to the ground.
Don't you know it's a bad idea to carry around the belongings of the dead? There, now I fixed it. We wouldn't want your father to show up here and haunt our school, right?
June flung the book over her shoulder without the slightest concern as to where it might happen to land. The book flew all the way to the other side of the yard, hitting the table where Hoshi and Reiko were seated, knocking their food and drinks everywhere. Mutsumi remained seated beneath the tree, feeling saddened and defeated, wishing she was far away from that place.
What is this nonsense about a bear?
How could you? How could you do this to me? I wasn't bothering you. I wasn't doing anything to you.
You brought a haunted book to school. Emiko has a strong sense about such things, you know? She could smell your father's stench in that book as soon as we came outside. But now it's okay. I destroyed that book, so he's stuck in hell.
Mutsumi got to her feet and looked up into Jun's eyes. At that instant, something within snapped. There was no thought behind the act, no reason. It was a reaction born of pure rage. Before Jun had a chance to react, Mutsumi screamed and darted forward. With all the force she could muster, she threw forward her arm and slugged Jun right in her jaw. For a moment, the entire schoolyard fell silent. It even seemed as though the birds and insects themselves had stopped their chatter. Emiko stood speechless, staring at Mutsumi. Jun was as still as a statue, her head still in the position where Matsumi's fist had put it. And as her rage at what Jun had done began to subside, Mutsumi began to realize just what she had done and felt a cold feeling begin to rise up through her stomach. Jun's shock, too, had worn off, and she slowly turned to face Mutsumi. But for a small amount of blood flowing down her lip, the giant girl was completely unfazed by the punch. She stared down at Mutsumi with a look of hate, which Mutsumi had never yet encountered.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
She knew that no words could save her, that nothing she said or did was going to make this better, and she could only imagine what Jun had in store for her. Emiko had also come to join her friend, and Mutsumi knew that it was not going to be the book that was destroyed this time.
Tell me, Bag, have you ever read the books about how to mend broken bones once they're snapped? I hope that you remember
Is
this.
this your book? Cat got your tongue?
Yes, sorry. Yes, that is my book.
You should be more careful with it. It has some pages torn out, and it has some food on it, and it's a bit wet. Looks like some kind of animal got to it or something, but I'm guessing you still want it.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, you!
I'm Reiko, and this is Hoshi.
I know. I know who you are.
Hey, I'm talking to you, freak!
When Jun talks to you, you pay attention, weirdo.
Reiko simply stared up directly into Jun's eyes, with this weird-looking smile on her face. Jun was not accustomed to this sort of response. He did not know how to take it. She did know that this girl was a strange bird, though.
You saw? She hit me! Why do you want to get involved?
You threw a book at me.
Reiko turned to Hoshi, who handed her a thin glass bottle of yellow liquid.
This is very acidic, and you almost knocked it over onto me. That wasn't very nice of you.
Huh?
Acid, you stupid mule. Do you know what acid can do to a face? Even to a face like yours.
At that moment, Jun felt a small nervous chill run up her spine. She highly doubted that it was actually acid in the container, of course. But she wasn't sure. Not completely. After all, if there was one person who would randomly carry around such an odd thing, it would be this one.
It can melt your face right off this can. I think it would be a funny thing to see. Your eyes, your nose, your lips, melting away and sliding down your neck. Oh, can you imagine how silly you would look?
You're weird, and none of this concerns you. Go eat, and stay out of it.
Yeah, stay out of it.
I was eating. You spoiled it for me. Now, I will spoil you.
With that, Reiko splashed the yellow liquid into June's face. June let out a yell and pulled back.
Are you crazy?
Frantically, she began rubbing her face with her hands, trying to wipe away the wet substance that was beginning to burn her eyes. Both Amiko and June ran off to find help in a frenzy, while Mutsumi simply stood perfectly still and in complete disbelief at what had just transpired before her eyes.
For such a big, stupid oaf, she sure can run fast.
Thank you again. This book belonged to my father. He died recently.
Sorry to hear it.
My father died a long time ago. My mother, too.
I see. So, is that stuff really gonna melt her eyes away?
This? Nah. I don't think cat piss can do that.
Okay. Well, it would have been an improvement.
You're right there.
My name is Mutsumi. It's nice to meet you both.
Hey, do you want to come over to my house?
Maybe sometime this week, if that's
I'm
all
not
right.
right now. I have something interesting I want to show you. And you too, Hoshi.
I'm sorry, but I can't today. After school, I need to care for my little brother.
Oh, well. Okay then. Hey, do you want to sit with us tomorrow at lunchtime? No one will take any books away from you, I promise.
Right. Sit with us from now on.
That's very kind of you. I would like to get to know you both better.
Sure.
The next day, around the same time, Mutsumi joined Reiko and Hoshi for lunch outside in the schoolyard. She wasn't sure she wanted to befriend these girls, but Mutsumi did not make friends easily and felt that she should not throw away the chance when it presented itself. Reiko had been showing them some old news articles which she had brought from her house. Each article had to do with an old train yard that Mutsumi had never heard of.
I've always wanted to go check it out. People have said that it's so quiet there. They say you really get a feeling of being in another place, you know? Like you're standing in a moment of time that's been preserved, a place that has been forgotten but not lost.
It sounds very intriguing.
Who says? I've heard it's a dreadfully awful place. People have died there, you know. It's dangerous. That's one of the reasons it was closed down in the first place. Too many accidents.
What kind of accidents?
Just your typical train yard catastrophes. You know, like people getting run over by trains or getting electrocuted, stuff like that.
Oh, it couldn't have been that common of an occurrence, could it?
Well, I don't know. But a lot of people also got hurt there after it was abandoned. It may even be more dangerous now since it's not being well kept.
Oh, it's not abandoned. Not entirely. There's one resident who dwells there still. Her name was Kayako, a young girl who died when she was run down by a train. Grandpa told me he remembers when it happened.
I think she committed suicide, right?
Nobody knows for sure. What they do know is that she fell onto the train rails as a train was coming through. Sliced the poor little thing right in half.
Among other things, I'd imagine.
That's so sad. The poor girl, how terrible.
What's more terrible is the fact that her spirit has never been allowed to escape that place. Kayako is trapped there, still to this day, in that cold, dark, silent train yard, and she will be forever.
That's nonsense.
Probably her punishment for taking her life for granted. Serves her right if you ask me. Life shouldn't be thrown away so easily. I always thought suicide seemed like a permanent solution for what are most likely temporary problems.
Nonsense, huh? Well, in the years since Kayako's death, 28 other people have been reported to have died in the Gekko Tengoku train yards.
Really?
Really. And most of them met their demise after the station had closed. You know, they say Kayako can't escape because she can't find her legs. In fact, no one has ever found her legs.
They were probably mashed up by the train. Or maybe it carried them away with it. But why does a ghost need legs anyway?
Many of the victims at Gekko Tengoku Station were found sliced in half, just like Kayako was. Since she can't find her own little legs, they say she will attack visitors and try to steal theirs. You find that funny, Hoshi?
I'm just trying to picture it. A little half-girl crawling around after people and stealing their legs. Does she try them on for size or what?
It's really sad, though, you know, that she died. She looked so sad.
She certainly looks like she got lost in the shuffle. She must have been pretty damn sad to jump in front of a train. I don't think I could ever be that sad.
I've thought about her a lot. If she's there, I would like to see her. I would like to try to catch her and bring her home with me.
Mutsumi began to laugh. What a silly conversation they were having. Oh, Father, she thought, I wish you were able to be here to meet my 2 new friends. Oh, how amusing he would find all of this. But across the table, Hoshi was not laughing. Nor was she even smiling anymore. For she knew that Reiko was not being funny. She knew that Reiko truly meant what she said and fully intended to go to that train yard and try to find that girl.
You know, Kayako doesn't only slice people in half. I've read reports where people have been torn to shreds. Some of them eaten, even.
Eaten?
That's bull.
It's not. The medical examiners saw where the flesh had been chewed off, and some of the victims had teeth marks sunk into their bones.
Okay, now you're making stuff up.
I think if we can bait a trap with some food, we can catch Kayako, and I can take her home.
Animals.
I'm sorry?
Wild animals got to the corpses. It's not anything special.
That's a good point, Mutsumi. That can explain it.
So what? You want to bring her home as a friend or like a sister?
I was thinking more like a pet.
Oh, what an awful idea.
Is it?
Yeah.
Before Reiko was able to respond, she was grabbed around her neck by what felt like a vice and lifted right up out of her seat. The next thing she knew, she was being slammed against the brick wall of the school building. Standing over her with a look of fury on her face stood June, and by her side as always, Amiko.
You weird little fool. You throw piss in my face, huh? Did you think I was gonna forget it, huh?
She pulled Reiko away from the wall and then slammed her back again. Not as hard as the first time, but almost as hard.
Hey!
Hoshi hurried over in what she knew would be a fruitless attempt to help her friend, and that is exactly what it had been. As soon as she got close enough, she was grabbed by Amiko and held back in a chokehold.
You're not as smart as your friend there. She knows not to be a stupid little pixie.
June continued staring down at Reiko with murder in her eyes.
You crossed the line, you little freak. And now I'm gonna hurt you bad. I'm gonna break your jaw, crush your nose, and smash your teeth.
Mutsumi, after some consideration, decided to try and defuse the situation. She knew June would hurt Reiko, would hurt her just as badly as she was boasting. Maybe she could at least try to talk some sense into the enraged girl. But before she could make her way over to them, she noticed that June had already pulled back a bit. Reiko was now glaring up at June. At some point, which June had not noticed, Reiko had produced a syringe and now had it pointed directly at June's throat. June stared down in horror at the potential threat which she could feel just ready to pierce the soft skin of her throat.
A virus. A bad one. No cure, you know. Oh no, not for this one. One prick and it's inside you. One little drop is all it takes. One little prick.
Hey June, what is she saying?
I injected one of my cats just the other day. Oh, how the poor little thing suffered. I never thought a small animal could endure such agony for so long. How it wailed. Oh, it was awful. First, it puked up every last ounce of food in its body. Then it started puking up blood. And then the blood just began to flow from every orifice in its body. Its eyes shriveled up. You know, like the way grapes shrivel into raisins. Then its hair fell out. And after that, it just went mad. I guess due to the pain. It was in so much pain. I think it took about a week until it finally died. Yeah, about a week, I think. That's what happened to a little cat. What do you think happens to a big, fat, ugly mule? Shall we see? Oh, let's see.
I don't believe you. You're lying.
Maybe I am, but maybe I'm not. One prick, just one little prick, and you'll find out, won't you? Then you'll know what little Pinky knew.
Oof! Hey, what do you think you're doing?
No, stay back. Please. Don't startle her, Emiko.
I do hope I don't slip. My arm is getting tired, a little shaky. I may slip. Oh, how tragic that would be.
June looked down into Reiko's eyes, trying to find some hint that the girl was bluffing, but could find none. Reiko had been bluffing about the acid, but was she bluffing now? Could June take a chance? A very unlikely thing to be walking around school with a deadly virus in one's pocket. Then again, June knew that if there was one person strange enough, one person crazy enough, it would be this one. Finally, June decided that the little fruitcake was not worth the trouble. June would never run from a fight and was afraid of no one. But this one unnerved her.
Okay, kid. I don't care. You're not worth my spit.
Reiko lowered the syringe and June looked down at her with disdain.
Be careful, June. From now on, be very careful.
Oh, yeah? Why?
When you reach into your bag, when you sit down in your car, even when you get into your bed at night, be careful to check. Always check.
June didn't know if she should feel enraged or terrified. She began to regret ever crossing paths with this little screwball.
You get yours someday, you little creep.
Without saying another word, she turned and walked off with Emiko right behind her, all the while wondering what had been in that syringe. When June and Emiko were out of sight, the three other girls sat back down at the table. Mutsumi could not believe that Reiko had sent June retreating for a second time now. She did not feel there would be a third. Reiko could not beat June physically, but it certainly defeated her psychologically. Mutsumi had seen that in June's face. This gave Mutsumi a pleasant feeling. She was glad that someone had finally put that large troll in her place. She assumed June would be double-checking all of her pockets and bags for a very long time, and this made her smile.
So what is really in the syringe?
Well, let's find out.
Reiko plunged the needle into Hoshi's throat and pressed the plunger inward. Hoshi jumped back out of her seat and fell off onto the ground. Holding her throat, she looked up at Reiko in disbelief.
What the hell did you do?
It's all right. It's just my cat's medicine, I think.
You think? Cat's medicine?
Oh, Hoshi, it won't harm you, I promise. Do you think I would stick you with it if it would? Okay, So we need to start planning.
Planning?
We need to think about the best way to catch Kayako. I'll do some more research and get some supplies. What do you say we go on a little adventure to the Gecko Tengoku train yard next week sometime?
Mutsumi wasn't sure if it would be wise to travel to that train yard. If so many people lost their lives there, it must have its dangers. She did not believe in a little half-girl crawling around eating people or cutting them in half. But it was still far from safe.
Do you really want to go there? I thought it wasn't safe.
We'll be extra careful, of course. I'll try to find a map if I can, and we won't go near any of the dangerous parts. I'm sure they're marked with signs.
Somehow I have the feeling those will be the first areas you take us to.
Mutsumi didn't know how to feel about this adventure, especially with these two. But life had not been fun nor happy for her in a while, and perhaps going on a small adventure with these two strange girls would bring some excitement, if not some fun into her lonely life. The past 2 days had been different. She would need to get someone to look after Koji, of course.
I hope you don't really expect to see a half-girl crawling around looking for her legs.
Well, we'll see.
Exactly 1 week later, the three girls met up at the edge of Tochinoki Park very early in the morning. From here, they would hike to the empty train tracks, which Reiko had explained would take them through the old Gecko Tengoku train yard. Along with the three girls, there was a fourth traveler. Mutsumi had arrived with her younger brother, Koji. Koji had been fascinated by the idea of visiting an old abandoned train yard, not to mention the thrill he found in skipping a day of school for the activity. Mutsumi, of course, had not informed the boy about the deaths or the possibility of a haunt residing at their destination.
What is this?
This is my little brother, Koji. I tried to find someone to watch him, but I wasn't able. And it's not like I could tell everyone that I'm skipping school today.
And can't little Koji take care of himself? Or is he a baby? You're not a baby, are you?
I'm no baby.
Oh, no, I see. You're a brave little piggy, aren't you?
I'm not a piggy either.
If you say. You did enlighten the boy as to where we were going.
You said it's safe, right? I mean, you have a map and we aren't going near any of the dangerous spots.
I have a map, but anything can be dangerous when you bring a little baby along. You'll have to watch him, understand?
Of course I'm gonna watch him.
I want to see the train station. I want to see the trains. We will, honey. We just need to take a walk first, okay?
It may take us 2 or 3 hours to get there. Is that okay with you, little piggy? Can your short, stubby little legs take you that far?
I can make it. I can get there first, ahead of all of yous.
Oh, I see. A tough little piggy. Hey, this pack I have is very heavy. Do you want to be a gentleman and carry it for me?
Carry it yourself. I don't like you. I know a jerk when I see one.
Koji!
Well, I don't like you either.
So the small group of 4 began their long trek through the woods, and then along the railroad tracks. The sky was clear, and the air was crisp. Koji, full of youthful energy and excitement, continued to run far ahead of the others, many times disappearing completely from sight, much to the dismay of his sister.
Have you ever thought about what would be the most unbearable way to die?
I haven't really thought about it that much.
I wonder how much the girl in the train yard suffered. Do you think it was an instant death, or do you think it really hurt?
I imagine it must have to really hurt. It all depends on what happened exactly, though.
Do you see this?
Oh, Hoshi! That's a nasty scar. What happened?
I was bit by a stray dog that I was trying to feed. I'll never forget that feeling. It was so scary and it hurt so much. I could feel his teeth breaking into my bone. Man, did that hurt. I remember screaming and trying to pull away, but the more I pulled, the deeper his teeth sank in.
How did you get away?
He just let go after a while and ran off.
I guess he didn't like the way you tasted.
I guess not. But ever since then, I've been extremely afraid of dogs. I think the worst way to die would be to get killed by a dog. Worse yet, a pack of dogs. The thought of that crushing force over and over again, ripping through my flesh and cracking my bones, ugh, it gives me shivers.
I don't know, Reiko's virus sounded pretty bad.
Well, fortunately for me, it was just her cat's medicine in that syringe.
How can you be sure it was her cat's medicine?
Well, I've had a strange craving for tuna ever since.
At one point, the others were stopped by Reiko, who shushed them and was staring watchfully at the bushes. There was movement in the tall grass off to the side. Some animal was scurrying around.
What is happening? Why are we stopping?
I hear something.
What do you hear?
Shh.
Reiko removed her backpack and unzipped it. From the pack, she produced a short bow and a few arrows.
What are you going to do with that?
Reiko checked her bowstring and placed an arrow against the side of the bow. Her eyes seemed fixed to a spot in the bushes. All was silent. Now the others could hear it. There was something moving around in the brush. Reiko heightened the bow and set her arrow into place. She then pulled back the bowstring and waited.
What's there? Are we behind enemy lines?
Shh. Shut up.
Finally, from out of the grass trotted a large black boar. Mutsumi and Hoshi stared in awe, and Koji struggled with himself to contain his excitement. Reiko stood perfectly still, holding her stance. The boar sniffed around near the edge of the tracks, but came no closer.
Why doesn't she shoot it?
Shh, Koji.
After a short moment, another boar appeared through the grass. This one was much smaller, only a piglet.
Oh, look!
Look, Koji, quick, get your camera.
But there was no time for photos. At seeing the small piglet, Reiko released the arrow and it ripped through the air, striking the small pig directly in its side. The larger boar squealed and ran off in fear, leaving the young piglet to its fate. Reiko walked over to where the small animal lay squirming, still alive, and in a lot of pain. She reached down and retrieved her arrow. The small animal still attached, and held it up like a skewer.
Look at this. Another little piggy. Was he a relative?
She placed the animal on the ground, its little body still squirming in pain. She gripped its head in her hands. There was the sound of a crack, and the squirming ceased. The other three looked on as Reiko pulled the arrow from the piglet and carried its body back over to her backpack.
We need to wrap it up or it will get all over the place.
Is there something wrong with you? Why'd you have to do that?
We need to have some bait for Kayako. It should be fresh, I think.
Bait? For a ghost?
Why would she want to eat a pig? Ghost? Who is Kayako? Are we gonna see a ghost?
Of course not. You know ghosts aren't real, right? They're only make-believe things.
Yeah, of course. I know. But you said...
Never mind.
Okay. Silly girl, you can't catch a ghost.
Well, we'll soon find out, won't we?
It was early in the afternoon by the time the group had reached the old train yard. It had been a mile from the yard where they had spotted the first warning signs to keep away. The train yard was surrounded by a chain-link fence, and beyond that, a large stone wall. The group ignored the warnings, and after a bit of effort, the 3 girls and 1 boy managed to climb over the fence and gain entry into the yard. It was oddly quiet. On their journey to the train yard, the group had been serenaded with the sounds of birds, insects, and other forest creatures, But here, all life seemed to be silenced.
Sort of peaceful here. Kinda nice.
Sis, can we check out the station and the trains?
Sure we can, but stay close to me. And only me.
I'm gonna drive the engine!
Careful, Koji!
Ride them rails! Off we go!
Koji, come back here!
Oh, what is this?
Koji, put that down this instant!
We might as well start setting up the traps.
Traps?
Reiko placed her backpack on the ground and unzipped it. She pulled out the body of the little piglet and placed it on the ground. She then took out 2 claw traps and laid them next to the pig.
This is silly on so many levels, Reiko.
Reiko started on the claw traps. Using a hammer from her bag, she hammered the spike into the ground for the first trap. She then pulled open its jaw and laid the little pig on top.
You want to do the next one?
You seem to be doing just fine.
You asked me something before, remember?
I'm sorry?
You asked me why Kayako would eat a pig.
Okay.
Well, if the pig doesn't get her lips smacking, I know what will.
Reiko finished setting up the second claw trap and then stepped back over to her bag. She reached into the bag once again, and this time, Hoshi could not believe what she pulled out. It looked like it was human remains.
What is that?
I've named him Duke Ainsley.
Duke what?
I found him in the Kaneshimi forest, and it didn't take me long.
You went there? When? With who?
I went there a few nights ago.
By yourself?
Sure. Sorry. I would have asked you, but I didn't think you would want to come.
I wouldn't have.
By now, Mutsumi and Koji had rejoined them. Both brother and sister stared at the corpse in disbelief.
He was pretty heavy for a dead guy, so I had to cut away most of the leftover meat.
That's horrifying! Now what are you doing?
I want to keep the head. I think it would look cool on my bookshelf.
You disrespectful idiot! Stop it! That's somebody's relative!
There we go. I'll need to scrape the rest of the flesh away and scoop out the eyeball. Can any of you there chaps help me find my gravestone? How about you, young lass? Give us a kiss.
Reiko returned the skull to her backpack and placed the man's bony torso in the trap. The group spent the next few hours exploring the train yard. There was such a surreal feeling of being back in time. Everything here was just as it had been when the yard was shut down several decades ago. Koji especially enjoyed searching through the train cars and pretending he was an engineer.
Watch out, sis! Here comes the Koji Express! Coming down the track! Toot toot! Toot toot!
You're a natural, Koji.
Mutsumi was surprised at how easily the boy had forgotten about what Reiko had done with the corpse. She knew she herself would certainly never forget it. She was beginning to have regrets about this entire thing. After a while, everyone decided that it would be a good time to have lunch. They sat outside the train station and brought out their lunches and drinks.
Hey, Reiko! Can I see the skull after you clean it all off?
You'll break it!
How can you break a skull?
You don't want to find out. Besides, if you want to come to my house and play with my cool stuff, you should have carried my bag for me.
I'll carry it for you on the way back.
You are not touching that thing!
I've been wondering, Reiko, even if we happen to catch Kayako with one of those traps, how do you expect to bring her back with us?
I have a collar and a leash in my bag. They're pretty strong.
I thought Kayako was a girl, not a dog.
Well, you see, Koji, Kayako has no legs. So I guess she kind of needs to crawl around. Similar to a dog, I guess.
Dogs don't crawl, they walk. Dogs have legs.
Uh...
Can I walk her?
Koji! Now don't start talking like that. Have some respect!
I was only joking.
Koji, Kayako was a young girl like me. And a long time ago, she died here on these railroad tracks. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, I know.
Do you really think you can catch a ghost with traps and walk them on leashes?
Nope.
Good.
Mutsumi now fully regretted coming here, and certainly regretted bringing Koji. She felt bad for subjecting her little brother to the things he had seen. While they were eating, Reiko pulled out a small jar. Within the jar was a dark mass, which Mutsumi could only hope wasn't what it appeared to be. But as she watched Reiko sprinkle the contents of the jar onto her sandwich, it was as she feared. The jar had contained a pile of dead flies.
I really hope that's for Kayako.
It's not.
Oh my god!
I like the texture. I like to feel their little dried up bodies between my teeth.
I think we've been here long enough. I think it's time we started back home.
So go ahead. Hoshi and I are staying until Kayako comes.
But I don't know how to get back.
Then I guess you're staying as well.
Mutsumi sat back down, realizing that she would not know how to get back to civilization without the map. She also was not very interested in heading back through the wilderness with only Koji. Some more hours passed, and there had still been no sign of Kayako, or anything else for that matter. Since the group had arrived, they had not seen one bird, one frog, or even one insect. Not any living ones, anyhow.
Kayako. Kayako.
So, has she always been like this? I mean, she's not normal, you know. She's not right.
Yes, she has been. She's my best friend, and as long as I have known her, she's been odd.
I knew she was a bit strange. It's just when I saw her with that corpse.
Remember that dog I was telling you about, the one that bit me?
Yes?
Well, it wasn't a stray. It was her dog, Reiko's. She told me to feed it, told me it was nice and didn't bite, but I always had the feeling that she knew it would. And the dog let me go because Reiko stabbed him in his eye with something. I don't remember what it was, but it was either a knife or a fork.
That I believe. I've only known you two a short time, and she's been nothing but cruel to you, Hoshi. When you guys helped me out with June and Amiko, I thought at least she was a nice person. But she's not, you know. She's very selfish and cruel, a very mean person, actually.
You don't know how right you are.
Why do you stay friends with her?
Maybe because she was the first friend I ever had. And my only friend, to be honest. I really felt bad for her when her parents died. She tried to act like it didn't bother her, but I know it did. Sometimes she can be funny and makes me laugh when I feel down. And I can't say being with her has been boring. She has no parents and no siblings, just her grandpa, and he's a creep. I think without me, she'd be alone in the world.
She's not your only friend. Not anymore. You're a good person, Hoshi. Oh, it's getting late. I really think we should head back. Rico is waiting for something to show up that doesn't exist. I really don't want to spend the whole night in this place. I mean, there's a dead guy laying over there, and it's freaking me the hell out.
I must say, I'm relieved that Kayako did not show up.
Me too. Reiko, I think we should start back now. It will get dark soon, and we have a long way to go.
But we didn't see Kayako yet. And I know you want to see her, right, Piggy?
I think it's stupid. You want to catch a mean, scary ghost and walk her on a chain? Very stupid, I think.
Yeah, I also think we should go, Reiko. We had a lot of fun today, and this place is really neat. But there aren't any ghosts here. You know that, right?
Oh, so now you don't believe in it either?
Well, I don't know. It's possible. But I think it must be a very exceptional thing to actually come across one.
Fine. Go if you want, but I'm staying.
You know we can't go without you.
Okay, it's boring now, and I want to go home. I saw the trains and I want to go home and look at my photos.
You're bored, Piggy?
Yep, I came to see the trains, not wait all day for stupid ghosts to show up. Ghosts aren't real stupid. You really are a foolish girl to believe in them. Such a silly thing.
So I'm foolish, am I? It's silly, is it? Let me tell you something about Kayako, little piggy. She hungers. She hungers for the nice, warm meat of little piggies like you. You're already caught in her web. She's now just watching you from somewhere in this train yard, waiting to strike. And when she does, oh, piggy. Her fingers are all dried up and hardened. This makes them somewhat like thin, sharp blades. She'll poke into you right here, just below your pudgy little belly. Then she'll slice her long, bony finger right up through you, right up to your little chinny chin, just like the way you would gut a fish. You've gutted fish before, haven't you, piggy? Once you're all nice and sliced up, she'll dig into you with her claws and tear you open like a big soft meat package. And all of your steaming, wet guts will spill out all over the ground. Your eyes will roll back from an agony you never dreamed possible. And the best part is, you'll still be alive for just a bit. Just long enough to watch Kayako begin to dig into her nice, fresh, piggy smorgasbord. You'll grow out of that someday.
That's enough. You're not right. Do you realize that, Reiko? You've got something severely wrong with you. I mean, you eat bugs. You carry skeletons around in your backpack. And we're all here because you want to capture the ghost of a girl who died long before we were born. To take her home as a pet, no less? You belong in an insane asylum, you psychopath.
Are you finished?
No! That's for frightening my little brother.
Reiko!
Okay, take it easy. I'm sorry, okay? I just got mad at you because you scared Koji.
You're lucky I like you, kid. That being the case, I'll let you decide what parts I slice off.
Reiko, stop! What are you doing?
Stay out of it, Hoshi.
As Mutsumi backed away from Reiko, she stumbled on the train tracks and lost her footing.
Ow!
There was the sound of a pop, and Mutsumi fell backwards onto the ground. The others looked on in disbelief at the way her ankle was now gruesomely twisted out of shape.
Ooh, that looks like it really hurts.
こんにちは。
sorry.
Sis! Koji! Run! I won't leave you, sis! Please, help!
Run, Koji! Run! Please go! Get away!
I can't get it open. Piggy! Come here, I need your help.
Please, get it off! Get it off!
Get over here, Piggy.
Rico!
Was this what death was? Or was Kayako a special case? What had the young girl done in life to be so severely punished in death? But was this even a punishment? Or had it simply been a consequence undesigned? Either way, how unfair it seemed. How sad. Any part of this thing that had once resembled the young girl Kayako had now been completely stripped away. Be it by death or time or both. Her hopes long gone, her dreams long gone. The love she had once felt and the desire to be loved long gone.
Don't leave me! Please, don't leave me!
Forgotten in life and tormented in death, Reiko imagined that if there was one thing this little monster's heart no longer possessed, that thing would be forgiveness.
Run! Run! Hurry, Rico! Hurry, Rico! Run! Run! She's right behind you! Run! Run!
Hurry, Piggy, boost me up.
No way! You pushed me up first!
I'll pull you up afterwards. You won't be able to lift me. Hurry up, you twerp, she's coming!
Okay!
Grab my hand!
I can't reach it!
Hurry, Piggy!
It was early morning by the time Reiko found her way back to civilization. Having left her map back at the train yard, it had taken her a long time to find her way through the woods. She did not know exactly where she was, but by the look of things, she could tell it was a place of impoverishment. The sun had not yet risen, and she shared the street only with some filthy-looking vagrant.
Hey there, lady. Rough night, huh?
I'm fine. It's just pig's blood.
Maybe we can both go somewhere and wash it off together, huh?
Crawl away and die, cockroach.
Reiko managed to find a restroom and entered. Perhaps it would make a good place to wait out the night. Perhaps not. It was filthy and it smelled. But it wouldn't be long until the sun came up, and she longed to clean the blood from her skin. She walked over to the sink and began washing her arms and face. After a few moments, she began to hear movement in one of the stalls behind her. The lock slid open with a loud click, and the stall door slowly began to open. Reiko tried to ignore it and continued washing off the blood. She heard the sound of soft, wet footsteps making their way slowly out of the stall and the labored breathing of the occupant. Reiko tried to ignore the person, wishing they would just hurry up and leave. It was no doubt another filthy vagrant. The footsteps stopped. Reiko looked up in the mirror, but could just barely make out the figure's reflection in the dirty glass. She turned, and her eyes met with a tall, dark, emaciated woman with a battered face. The woman looked her over for a moment, even hunched over. She towered over Reiko.
Pretty girl with dark eyes, tell me true, am I beautiful?
You're joking, right? Would you believe I've seen worse?
Do not confuse. Am I beautiful? Pretty girl with dark eyes.